Hi Army, I'm Jungkook and I'm a set with Calvin Klein.
Jungkook was not just a good choice, he was arguably the best possible choice. His career trajectory already embodies globalism. As a member of BTS, he is part of the first non-Western act to dominate the Billboard charts on the same level as US superstars. As a soloist, his singles and collaborations have shown not only chart-topping power, but also a versatility that appeals across demographics. His name carries weight in Asia, North America, Europe, and beyond. For Calvin Klein, this was the perfect alignment. A brand once at risk of fading into irrelevance suddenly tied itself to a generational cultural leader. Initially, Jungkook's Calvin Klein role looked like a standard partnership: appearing campaigns, post on social media, attend events. But in 2024, and especially entering 2025, the role began to shift. Reports from industry insiders suggested that Calvin Klein was restructuring its ambassador strategy, moving away from a roster of multiple celebrity faces toward building campaigns around fewer but more influential figures. Jungkook became central to this shift. Rather than being one of many, his role began to resemble that of a primary muse. His campaigns were not limited to seasonal fashion drops, but tied to Calvin Klein's flagship store launches, regional expansions, and even runway-level presentations. There is speculation that Calvin Klein has considered making Jungkook the anchor for its Asia-Pacific brand strategy, while also leveraging his US popularity to bridge markets. This is not common in the fashion industry. Even major ambassadors like Zendaya at Valentino or Jennie with Chanel are often tied to specific lines or limited campaigns. For Jungkook, Calvin Klein appears to be building something larger, something akin to the way Nike built an entire era around Michael Jordan. The unexpected turn here is that Jungkook's role is shifting from traditional ambassador to something that could resemble a brand-defining figure. Part of what makes this so striking is the timing. Jungkook is in a transitional phase of his career. With BTS members serving mandatory military enlistments, the group's activities are temporarily paused. Jungkook, like his bandmates, has had to navigate this unique period. For many artists, such a break could risk career momentum. Yet, in Jungkook's case, the partnership with Calvin Klein provides a buffer. His image and visibility remain constant, even when musical activities are less frequent. In fact, one could argue that Calvin Klein has become Jungkook's stage during this period. His airport appearances, often speculated to be linked to brand commitments, create global headlines. His promotional content for Calvin Klein trends worldwide with the same intensity as a new music release. Instead of fading into the background during BTS's hiatus, Jungkook has used the Calvin Klein platform to maintain his central place in the global conversation. This timing is not accidental. Calvin Klein benefits from Jungkook's unmatched cultural pull, while Jungkook benefits from staying relevant and visible during a career transition. Both parties are getting more than they initially bargained for. What truly sets this partnership apart is how it blurs the line between music and fashion influence. For decades, musicians have worked with fashion brands, but often these collaborations are side projects. With Jungkook, fashion is becoming inseparable from his global identity. His Calvin Klein campaigns are not just fashion ads, they are cultural events. They generate discourse not only in fashion magazines, but also in mainstream news outlets, music blogs, and social media conversations across languages and continents. This kind of cultural crossover is rare. Beyoncé's Ivy Park partnership with Adidas had similar ambitions, but was ultimately discontinued due to sales and creative misalignment. Jungkook and Calvin Klein, by contrast, seem to be achieving something more sustainable. The campaigns are not just selling jeans or underwear. They are reinforcing Jungkook's position as a global symbol of youth, rebellion, and reinvention qualities that Calvin Klein has always wanted to embody. The wild turn in this story comes from how quickly the relationship has escalated. By mid-2025, discussions within the industry began to frame Jungkook not merely as Calvin Klein's ambassador, but as a core identity marker of the brand. Some insiders even suggest that Calvin Klein's upcoming major campaigns and flagship events will feature Jungkook as the centerpiece rather than just a participant. This implies that Calvin Klein's future, at least for the next few years, is tied to Jungkook's image in a way no one predicted at the start. For Jungkook, this also changes the trajectory of his solo career. If he becomes not just an ambassador, but a brand-defining figure for Calvin Klein, it means his influence in the fashion world could eventually rival his influence in music. This creates new opportunities, but also raises questions. How will he balance his role as a musician with the increasing demands of being Calvin Klein's global face? Could fashion eventually overshadow music, or will the two industries merge seamlessly in his career? The public's reaction has been a key part of this shift. Jungkook's Calvin Klein campaigns have consistently gone viral, generating millions of views and conversations across platforms. Fans treat his fashion campaigns almost like new album drops, dissecting every image, video, and public appearance. This intensity of response demonstrates why Calvin Klein is pushing further. They have discovered that Jungkook is not just a celebrity ambassador, but a cultural catalyst. However, this also introduces unpredictability. With such high levels of public interest, every Calvin Klein move involving Jungkook becomes scrutinized. The stakes are higher, and missteps could provoke backlash. At the same time, this unpredictability is what keeps the narrative alive and ensures that every campaign feels like an event. Ultimately, the unexpected turn in Jungkook's Calvin Klein role is about more than fashion. It symbolizes the shifting dynamics of global celebrity. No longer are Western stars the sole cultural anchors for international brands. Jungkook represents a new era where an Asian artist can dominate globally, not only in music, but also in fashion. His partnership with Calvin Klein shows that global influence is no longer linear. It is shared, hybrid, and unpredictable. In this sense, the wild turn is not just Calvin Klein's strategy, but a reflection of the times. The brand is adapting to a world where audiences demand authenticity, where cultural icons must transcend industries, and where the boundaries between music, fashion, and global identity are dissolving. The scale of Jungkook's influence is not limited to music or fashion. He functions as a cultural conduit between East and West, between traditional pop stardom and new-age digital celebrity. Calvin Klein's decision to elevate him reflects an acknowledgement of how cultural power now flows. Consider how previous Calvin Klein ambassadors operated. Mark Wahlberg and Kate Moss shaped an American and European-centric vision of style. More recent ambassadors added diversity but still largely reflected Western ideals of cool. Jungkook, however, flips this script. He represents a Korean global superstar whose reach is not confined by language or borders. His mere association with Calvin Klein signals that the brand is serious about positioning itself as universal, not Western first. This is not a small shift. It demonstrates how global brands are now forced to decentralize their identity. Instead of radiating influence outward from New York or Paris, they must build networks of influence across Seoul, Tokyo, Los Angeles, and London simultaneously. Jungkook embodies that decentralization. Another reason this partnership has taken an unexpected direction lies in the economics of fandom. Traditional celebrity endorsements generate visibility, but Jungkook's presence converts visibility into measurable commerce. Whenever his campaigns drop, online sales spike. Whenever he appears at an airport in Calvin Klein apparel, the same items trend globally. This is not accidental. The fan economy in K-pop is structured differently from that of Western pop. Fans do not merely consume passively. They actively organize, promote, and amplify. Jungkook's Calvin Klein role taps directly into that infrastructure. What makes this unusual is that Calvin Klein, a brand historically known for its top-down marketing, is now effectively collaborating with a bottom-up fan culture. The result is a synergy that goes beyond what the company likely anticipated when it first signed Jungkook. This explains why Calvin Klein seems increasingly comfortable letting Jungkook's campaigns carry more weight. The fans themselves ensure global impact, transforming marketing campaigns into collective cultural moments. For a brand that once defined youth rebellion in the 90s, this is a new form of rebellion, letting fans, rather than traditional advertising, dictate cultural relevance. At the same time, Jungkook's Calvin Klein role cannot be separated from his identity as a musician. The wild turn here is not only that Calvin Klein is redefining its brand around him, but also that Jungkook is reshaping how his music career intersects with fashion. Unlike many musicians who see fashion as a side gig, Jungkook seems to be integrating it into his overall identity. His appearances in Calvin Klein campaigns often arrive at moments when his music activity is paused, almost as if the fashion role is strategically filling those gaps. This raises questions about how his comeback and future tours in 2026 will interact with Calvin Klein's plans. Will Calvin Klein stage major campaigns around his album launches? Will Jungkook's world tour double as a global Calvin Klein marketing push? Such integration could mark a new model of celebrity brand partnerships. Instead of being parallel, music and fashion could become interwoven threads of the same narrative. This is what makes the partnership unpredictable. Jungkook is not following the old template of ambassador work. He is redefining it in real time. Another layer to this unfolding story is Calvin Klein's gamble on longevity. Most celebrity brand partnerships are short-lived. They peak for a campaign season and then fade. By contrast, Calvin Klein appears to be building a multi-year strategy around Jungkook. This suggests that the company sees his relevance not as a passing trend but as something sustainable for years to come. This is unusual in the hyper-competitive fashion market. Betting heavily on one star means exposure to risk if cultural winds shift. But Calvin Klein seems convinced that Jungkook is different, not just a star but a generational anchor. If this gamble pays off, Jungkook could join the ranks of figures who define brands for decades. Much like Michael Jordan with Nike or Rihanna with Fenty Beauty. The wild turn here lies in how seriously Calvin Klein is treating Jungkook as a central pillar of its future identity, not just a fleeting collaboration. This shift has not gone unnoticed by competitors. Other luxury and lifestyle brands are reportedly reassessing their ambassador strategies in response to Jungkook's Calvin Klein dominance. Some fear that Calvin Klein has secured an unfair advantage by locking him in. Others wonder whether this model, investing so heavily in one figure, is replicable with other stars. Interestingly, while some brands are scrambling to replicate the formula, others are waiting to see whether Calvin Klein overplays its hand. If Jungkook becomes too synonymous with the brand, it could risk limiting his flexibility in future partnerships. But so far, that has not been the case. Instead, the collaboration has expanded his global visibility. For the fashion industry at large, Jungkook's Calvin Klein role has become a reference point. It is no longer just about ads or sales. It is about whether brands can still shape culture in an era when fans and digital communities hold the real power. Amid all the corporate strategy and industry speculation, it's worth remembering the human side of this partnership. For Jungkook, being the face of Calvin Klein is not just a career move, it is a symbol of personal growth. From debuting as a teenage trainee in BTS to now being the global face of a historic fashion house, his journey reflects more than success. It reflects the way he has become a canvas onto which global audiences project ideas of youth, change, and aspiration. This emotional dimension, while subtle, is part of why the partnership resonates so strongly. Fans are not just seeing Jungkook in Calvin Klein campaigns, they are witnessing his evolution. The campaigns become milestones, markers of how far he has come and how his story continues to unfold. For Calvin Klein, this human dimension is invaluable. It ensures that the campaigns are not just commercial, but narrative-driven, with emotional resonance that extends beyond the clothes themselves. Looking forward, the big question is, where does this partnership go from here? Calvin Klein has already tied Jungkook to flagship openings and campaign headlines. The next step could be even bolder. Rumors suggest possible collaborations on exclusive collections or even Jungkook-inspired product lines. If true, this would push the partnership into the realm of co-creation, not just endorsement. Such a move would truly mark a wild turn. It would position Jungkook not just as a face, but as a designer-level collaborator, reshaping Calvin Klein's product identity with his personal aesthetic. While this remains speculative, the trajectory of the partnership suggests that nothing is off the table.